Good morning and hi, everybody around the world. This is Mark Victor Hansen, my beautiful, beloved, brilliant wife, Crystal. And today we've got an exciting guest with us. He has just finished a book called Goose. This man is a lawyer amongst lawyers. He's got the rating as a superb lawyer, both ethical, moral, and superb. And he's got probably one of the biggest law practices in the planet. He is our great, dear, wonderful friend. And we can hardly wait to tell you about the book because I just finished reading it again, and it is beyond exquisite. It is so good that I highlighted a lot of the superstar lines that he wrote into it. Our dear friend, welcome to the show, Fred Penney.
Thank you, Mark. Crystal, how are you? Great to see the two of you.
It's great to see you too. And I just want to say something to the audience. If really, it's a rare opportunity when you get to sit at the feet of someone like Fred Penney, and you're going to get that once we get going. So whatever you're doing, call your friends and say, take 15 minutes and get on this podcast, because what you're going to learn from just, sitting at the feet of this amazing man is going to change your day, but it really, honestly, change your life. It'll set you up with some new ideas. So yes, go ahead, Fred. I just wanted to throw that out there.
Well, one more thing, Fred, and that is Fred is #1 on Amazon already, and the book just got launched. So yay, Fred. So Fred, tell us why you wrote this. Oh, sorry, sir. Go ahead.
Go.
No, go ahead. You're allowed to talk. I mean,
I was just saying, I told you before we jumped on, I said, I've got people calling and complaining because they can't get the hardback because it's sold out. It's not there anymore. Yeah. And so I guess it's back ordered or something, but everyone's like, we want the hardback. Or I don't know. So that's a good thing, I guess, right?
Oh my gosh, Fred. And it's funny because the same thing happened to us when we released Ask, and Ask has been such a success. It's such a good indicator of what this book is going to do. And like we said at the time, it's a nice problem to have because they plan on, and they were planning on a really strong launch for you, that they would have, enough books. And you exceeded that already. So bravo.
I tell you a funny story. I had a lot of law firms buy and give it to their employees, right? Yes. And I had a lawyer out of Texas call me and said, I'm buying your book because I want a bunch of your books. I said, okay. And I know the guy, and he said, can I buy a bunch? I said, buy as many as you want, for people. And he says, I need to give them out. I know friends that I want them to read this. I said, all right. He goes, how many should I buy? I said, what do you want to buy? I said, go buy 100. And I laughed. He goes, can I buy 250? I go, buy 250. And that was one lawyer out of Texas.
Wow. Well, he knows the treasure of that book.
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
It is a treasure of a book, and it is the fictionalized story that you've written about a wonderful man idealizing you as Mr. Collins coming out of nowhere to somewhere great. So you want to take us through just the cliff notes of the story?
Sure. When we first started to collaborate and talk about this book, it was like, it's another one of those, everyone wanted me to do a success story. How do you become successful from where I came from to the end, right? And there's a lot of those books, and they're wonderful. But I said to myself, I don't want to talk constantly about Frederick Penney, I did this, do this, I'm this. And so I was a little uncomfortable, and it worked out perfect. We said, let's collaborate and talk about William Collins. His life is a fictitious character, and then we'll just implement my life into William Collins and some of the things I've learned in life and the experiences and how the successes have come. Not easy, but some great steps to become successful. Like probably the most important thing that I always say is the three words that help you become successful in life are resist, resist, and resist. And it's great in the book how this takes me, or Mr. Collins, to his 75th birthday, which, by the way, I'm 59. And so it's looking into the future, and it's a trilogy. We go back to when I was a kid, or quote, Mr. Collins was a kid, growing up on a small farm with no money, and how life lessons of William Collins, that's book 2. And then book 3 takes you into the middle to where the successes became as lawyers, business person, philanthropist, and entrepreneur. And that's the process. And it's some wonderful, fun things. I get to throw a lot of my little sayings in and my life lessons into this book.
Well, you did such a beautiful job weaving this really cool character of William Collins that everybody wants to know about because he just has this really cool life, which is really your life, right? And just weaving all of those amazing lessons you've learned, the things that you've been able to define yourself by. And I wanted to talk about success specifically because that's a big one for you, the way you define success. And like, I know starting out, you basically never felt like you weren't a success, even though you didn't have much, right? And I think that is an incredibly important distinction for people to understand and to really think about. But can you talk more about that? I love that.
Sure. First of all, I'm going to make William Collins much handsomer than I am. And so if there's ever a picture that we're going to make, he's going to be a very handsome man because
Ooh, yeah, you're handsome. What are you talking about?
We've been together a lot. We think the world of you.
He's going to be good. But you know what? I learned in life, I tell stories. I was in Atlanta recently at a women's conference, and I had the pleasure of speaking. And I talked about growing up young. I had a grandmother that never allowed me to make excuses in life. And without getting into deep details, she was a wonderful woman. The three women in my life, they always, my dad, oh, didn't your dad help build you? No, these three wonderful women, my two grandmas and my mother, and then the fourth most important one was my wife, but that's another whole book, right? But they have taught me when I was young important things. The first thing they taught me was we have no failures in life. I'm going to repeat that. We do not fail in life. Those are
you say in the book they're only experiences.
Experiences. That's all they are. And so when people talk about failures or Fred, what would you change in your life? You could do it over again. Nothing. Zero. Every failure, quote, as people call it, to me is just an experience. And that's how I believe life is. And I was taught that. So as I came back from a basketball game, I believe it was my sophomore year, my grandmother and grandfather lived near us. My grandmother was a wonderful woman out of Pasadena, California, and was one of the first women that actually had a supermarket that her and my grandpa started, but she ran it. She was in charge. He was behind the scenes, and she was a superwoman. And she taught me as I started explaining why we lost a game, and as I started explaining the problems or the issues that we had, she would not allow me to make an excuse. Well, why did you lose? Well, because X. But why weren't you faster than them? Why didn't you score more than them? She would never let me make an excuse. And she turned to me, and this was kind of the epiphany in my life, is Freddie, she used to call me Freddie. Freddie, you can do anything you want in this world. If you want to be the president of the United States, Freddie, go do it. The only one stopping you is you. And that's how I started in life. And that's why I was raised on a small farm, little country boy. We just didn't have excuses. We just moved forward, and we fell a lot and got back up, and there's no excuses. My parents and my grandparents would not allow us to make excuses, just move on. And that's the way I've built my life.
Wow. I think what you're saying is so important for people to really tap into in this moment, because it's so easy for all of us to kind of, and people have the tendency to do this. I think it's human nature. We look back at our lives and we look for everything that was wrong. And, my parents were poor, we didn't have enough, and they didn't give me enough. But you look at it kind of in the opposite way, that everything, there was like a richness and an opportunity in every experience. And you took those, instead of being resentful or being victimized or looking for excuses because you had these incredibly strong women, you took that richness and turned it into real riches in the world in an amazing way.
Yeah, thank you. Well, what's interesting too is this is how it's the resist. Before I get to that really quick, what's important to know in life is be happy where you are no matter what your situation is. I have joy and happiness no matter what the situation is. I mean, look, there's higher joys and lower joys, right? Or
Right.
happiness. And so as people talk to me about my success financially, and then there's a whole personal success that's another book in itself. But I say to them, I always say this: I am no happier now than I was back when I had nothing and was poor and growing up in the country. I am no happier now,
Wow.
other than family and friends, right? But as in my joy and happiness, no different. And so that ties right into the resist. So as I built my businesses, my law practices, invested in companies and here and there, I was doing really well in the law business after about 4 or 5 years. And I've been in practice about 31 years, right? I started my law firm about 31 years ago, maybe 30. And as I built, I started bringing in a lot of money and being financially strong. I lived in a little 1,900 square foot home, nothing fancy, is in a tract house that was not the top tract house. I had a wife, 4 kids. She stayed at home, took care of the kids, and all my buddies, all my friends, or most of them were driving. Look, Fred, as a lawyer, you're successful now. Buy a Ferrari, get the Lambo, buy the big house. And you know what I did? I resisted. And my resistance was, I'm going to take that money and invest. And so I have a lot of people say, oh, yeah, I get that. I've done that too. You know how long I did that? I stayed in that little humble home, paid off, everything paid off. 10 years, not 1 year, not 2 years till I built the big house, 10 years. And I invested in phenomenal businesses, properties, myself, my law firms. And then you can go buy whatever you want after that, right? And that's how I did it.
Well, that's the beauty of what you're saying, is that you live below your means. I'm going to jump forward just a step further. Is that once you got into it, your favorite fruit, which I'll let you mention, but I know what it is. And then you sit on this great tree in a great swing. And what you really do is you meditate and cogitate and ruminate. And then you envision the future. And I think in the William Collins experience, I get goosebumps telling you, that's how much I underlined it. It just, he is a role model for everyone reading. And the reason we love the fiction is that everyone can see themselves in your story, because you come from nowhere to somewhere great. You've been excessively philanthropic and you have a really good life. Talk about sitting under the fruit tree, which I'll let you mention. I expect to come and get some from you.
Yeah. So that's right. As I grew up, at age 14, I started working in the fruit orchards, and that's what I did. And where I grew up in a small town, it was about 650 population, and it was all fruit orchards. And that's what I did. That's what we did. We worked in the fruit orchards. I worked and not only in the fruit orchards, but this one it's called the Vega Brothers Ranch. And I would go out and pick squash too. And squash cuts your arms. My arms would all be all cut up from picking squash. But I love the peaches. They always had these wonderful peaches. And I got to the point where I would pick them, and I worked in the field to where I'd sometimes work in the little fruit shed, and then they'd put me back in the field. In fact, it came to the point where they did they were experimenting with a tree, and this is in the 60s and 70s, and they tried this new little tree that was a crossbreed, and they didn't know what to call it, so they called it Freddie's Peach. And it was funny that they actually named a peach after me with this tree. It failed, of course, but still, I loved peaches. From then on, I just couldn't get enough peaches. And to this day, it's one of my favorite fruits. Now, I'm still bad at growing peaches, but what I did at my house where I live now is, I believe, the best visions, the best decisions are made in my swing under the fruit trees. In a boardroom is not where I make my best decisions. In a room with people with a desk and Zoom is not my best decisions. It's in the swing, underneath, in nature, enjoying mandarins, which I have 36 mandarin trees right near this swing now in California. And I make huge business decisions in that swing.
Wow, that is so beautiful. You know what I'd love for you to do for a second, Fred, is contrast William Collins, the high life that he lives, because you've just talked about what the most important time that you spend to create, this wonderful life that you live and that you feature in the William Collins character. But let's talk about, this fun, the planes, the jets, all the cool things, about William Collins' life, because I think that's fun for people to see, gentle humility, where you're just sort of communing with God and yourself in this quiet space. So let's contrast that for a second.
Sure. And I truly don't believe riches are a bad thing. It's what you do with it and how you do it, right?
Yes.
That's what it's about.
Yes.
And I do at times pinch myself. I do all the time. And as you guys know, I have my own private jet with my own pilots that fly me around, and I don't apologize for that. And I never will. And there's nothing wrong with success. And that's what I worry about this country and in other countries. You look at success as a negative. It's a positive. Yes. Let's look up to people that are successful, but you use it in the right way, right? And so William Collins, you will see in the book, is a very successful, wealthy individual, but is a good person and doesn't forget where he comes from. I'll tell you a story of that. As I grew up in an area that's probably 45 minutes away from me. In my office, maybe an hour, depending on what office, 3 hours from some of my LA offices. And I will at times drive up there, and for years, until recently, I think about 25 years, we had a post office box in that little town that was 650 population. It's probably 2,000 now. Wow. And my accounting department and accountants are like, why do you have that stupid post office there that we just get the junk mail from? And it's because I drive, by the way, my brand new Bentley. I will drive it up to that little town. Everyone looks at it like, oh my gosh, what's this thing doing here? To remember where I came from and never forget who I am. And that to me is critical in becoming successful. Never forget who you are or where you came from. You're not better than everybody else. Even though I act very confident, and I am confident, I'm a very confident person, but it comes down to never forget you're just Freddie from this little town in California.
Wow.
Well, humble just means teachable, and you've been very teachable and exceedingly successful in multiple businesses, which we're going to talk about in a minute. But talk about, what are the principles of success? If you had to melt it down to just a few principles that you're teaching through William Collins, what are they as these people read it? What are they to extricate so they have the kind of wisdom you do, so they can make the great impact that you have, are, and will continue to have?
Thanks, Mark. Well, so here's what I think are some interesting tidbits. The first thing I tell people, and I talk to people about, not tell, I was just at that women's conference, is I believe people don't dream big enough. So I always say, dream big. And at the beginning, when I talk at events, I say, will you come with me and dream? That's the first thing I'll say. And will you come with me and dream big? And then come with me and take those big dreams and become a reality. Because that's what I do. I believe a few tidbits to help people out is, do not worry about what other people say. Dream big, continue to dream big. Everyone would talk to me, everything I would do or I'd dream big about, they would laugh at me. I mean, they literally would laugh at me, and I would still dream big. Oh, I'm going to get my own private jet someday, and the laughs, and oh yeah, okay, Fred, here, go pick some peaches. All right. Just to me, do not let the people out there kill your dreams. Don't forget, Colonel Sanders in his 60s became successful, right? And it doesn't matter what age you are or what part of the rung on the ladder you're on. It's all the same principle. And that's what I want to get across. If that's the point, William Collins is the type of person that still dreams at age 75. He's still dreaming and dreaming big and trying to make those big dreams a reality. Never stop.
Never stop. Well, I have to tell you, Fred, we are so honored. The Mark Victor Hansen Library, on behalf of all of us, we are so honored to have been able to work with you on this book. It's an extraordinary story. And I want to do a little teaser, because this is actually a 3-part series. So can you tell us just a little teaser about what we'll be doing next? Because it's exciting.
So we are going to take William Collins back, the very successful business savvy individual, back to this little town in the 4th, 5th grade. And as a 4th, 5th grader, what he does, first of all, and the grammar school teachers that are shocked that he even made it through high school, let alone made it to college, law school, and has his own private jet. I mean, that's how it all starts out, to see this young little boy grow up in the country with nothing but happy and having, you know, issues in life. We all have issues, to see the little struggles that I had. And you're gonna live my life through William Collins in book 2. And you're gonna live my life as a young child growing up through the country, and the struggles, but the fun and the excitement and the humor. It's gonna have humorous parts in it. I've got some wonderful, funny, true stories that will just roll. You'll be rolling on the ground. And that's book 2.
I am so excited about that one personally, because I think looking at your childhood is so important, to really figure out who you are as an adult. I think that one's going to be one of my favorite ones. And then can you give a little sneak peek about the third one? Or are we keeping that one a secret right now?
No, let's do it. Let's do it. And then book 3 is going to roll into, as I build my law practices and my businesses, how I did it, how it took off, how it vaulted like a train, like a train going down the track, but how you struggle in business and anything you do in life at the very beginning, right? In my 20s, in my 30s and 40s, all the way up to basically to my 50s. And the middle part, the last book's going to bring me into the middle and bring William Collins in the middle to see how he built his companies and how he was successful in not just building companies. And by the way, never successful completely, because I believe success is a verb, not a noun, because success is not a destination, but it's a journey. So people go, oh, you become successful. No, we're not successful. None of us are. You know, success is our journey, right? And it's a verb. Get that. Go look in the dictionary and mark it out. I marked it out in my dictionary. I crossed out the N next to success. I put V. It's a verb. It's a verb. And so that's what book 3 is going to do.
Just cute aside, and then I got 2 questions. Is it when I was in graduate school, I was with Buckminster Fuller, Einstein's best student, Dr. Fuller, and he wrote a book called I Seem to Be a Verb. He said human beings are not like a tree. We don't have roots. We got good roots, what Crystal was just asking you about your childhood, but now you're a flourishing tree, but you're creating orchards. Talk about when you started your business law practice, how did that break through for you? What really broke through so you got big? And obviously, I'm glad you're debt-free. And ladies and gentlemen, there's such good principles in here that you got to highlight when you read the book. But then also, how did you decide? What was your thinking matrix to start your first business that would be self-fulfilling prophecy, 2 of your dreams?
This is a great question, Mark. Thank you, because that leads into a very important point in my life when I talk about how there are no failures in life. As I came out of law school, that everyone, again, was shocked that I made it through law school.
Yay, Fred.
I love that, Fred.
Yeah,
It makes the story so much better.
even I was shocked. Woo, I made it.
Bang! And I passed the bar.
And I passed the bar. The teacher's like, let him out quick. Just get him out of here. His personality is a little too much for us. And as I came out, I a big mega firm in the Bay Area. And I think it was 4 of us. These are 3 or 4 of us. And they were bringing us all on. And they chose 3 of us for this firm. And there was only one, what they thought was a failure. And that was me. They chose the other 3 lawyers, law clerks becoming lawyers, and told me they don't want me. And you know what? What would normal people think? Just absolute failure and distress because of that. I looked at it as a positive and an opportunity. Wow. And I said, I'm going to go out on my own and start my own practice. And just think, if I saw that as a failure and stuck my head down and was, oh my gosh, instead I saw it as an opportunity. And once that opportunity occurred, I would have probably never opened my law practice and start out at the very beginning to build this successful law practice. I would have probably been in the mega firm doing, with the mega corporate clients, instead of starting out representing individuals. And then I got into the personal injury. That's what I started doing. I did some defense first, then the plaintiff side, started hitting some verdicts, got on television. And then I said, who I can't beat. Who am I going to, there's a couple of people I can't beat in trial or I'm having problems. I went out and hired them and brought them into me. So I hired insurance people from Allstate, State Farm, Farmers, USA Insurance. and I brought in some of their top lawyers. But just think, if I saw that not hiring me in that mega firm as a failure, instead I saw it as an opportunity, where would I be today, guys?
Well, that's what the Bible says. The last shall be first and the first shall be last. And you were last, just like when I went bankrupt. It's the same thing. And what happens is it's not what happens to you, it's how you perceive it, how you look at it, how you react to it, how you respond. So then how did you decide your first business to leverage?
Well, I first started in the law practice, as I said, the resist, right? So what I did is as I went through the law practice and I built the practice, I started opening in different parts of the state of California. And then I got involved in some very important other businesses. And I even talked to you way back in the day. I started saying, okay, I'm going to buy into real estate and I'm going to buy into other companies. And I started buying into other businesses, fast food restaurant chain, which I'm a majority stockholder, the largest stockholder of. I bought into radio companies, bought into other businesses, and flipped them and sold them. One, by the way, was a publishing company of those independent phone book companies in the 90s and the 80s. I bought into that and flipped it and sold it, and it just continued to build. And then I built the law practice, rolled the money right back into the law practice, and built it larger. And that's, again, building the law practice is another, 400-page book and how I did it, because it's still to this day I'm expanding our law practice even bigger every year. It gets bigger. So that's kind of how I did. There's a number of companies I've invested in and still am invested in to this day.
Wow. I mean, the huge lesson is there. I mean, the rejection you went through, that lesson that you're trying to teach everyone, that only you determine your destiny. And that's so important for all of us, because we're all going to get that kind of rejection. So like we said from the beginning, you guys, there's so much to learn from this man. Stay tuned, grab this book, buy a copy for everyone you know, because it's the greatest gift you can give them right now. We all need these kind of mentors like Frederick Penney, and there's no one like him, I promise you, who can take us to that next level in our lives. And stay tuned. We'll be announcing as the next books come out. You're gonna fall in love with this character of William Collins, because it's so much fun to read and it's life-changing. And again, Fred, it's been such an honor to be with you today, to represent this beautiful, beautiful book that you've done and the other books that are coming out. And yeah, just stay tuned, guys. We're excited to bring it to you.
And before he gets his last word in, let me just say, you all know the metaphor of the golden goose. And when Fred and we talked, I said, no, you're going to be the goose that is gold for everybody, because what happens is what Fred and I are fans of a president named Jefferson. And Jefferson said, if my candle's lit and yours isn't, or been blown out, or been rejected, or been upset, or been angered, or been whatever your issue is, mine's lit, his is lit, ours is lit. We are here to light your I get goosebumps telling you that. That's a chicken soup moment. Goosebumps is a chicken soup moment. God bumps.
Yes.
And Fred and I have talked about this at great length in different times, and phone conversations and live physically at our home with Fred as our esteemed guest. But Fred, would you tie this up today with saying how everyone can find that inner self-determining person, no matter who they are, no matter how down they are, no matter how bad things have been?
Yeah, to wrap it up, two things, by the way. Thank you, the two of you. God bless the two of you. I appreciate you as friends, as colleagues, and you're wonderful people and doing great things. Thank you very much for your example. But, as I always say, it's so important to remember that the tide floats all boats, right? Yes. And it's okay to become successful and make money, because a lot of times people gravitate and their boats will float with you. I always say I invest in people first, businesses second. And it's very important in life to remember those people, because I'm telling you, if you're a business person, you're just out there to grind to make it for yourself, and you're not bringing all the other boats up, you will not succeed the rest of your life. The odds are very slim. So just remember others, build others. Do not ever let anyone knock your dream down, no matter how crazy or how above it is what people think you can do. Continue to dream big, and then make that big dream come true. And that's what I want to leave with you.
Fred is a rainmaker, and that's why we call it the golden goose, or the goose that lays the gold. And what we want you to do is all find your gold. So let me just do my last word, and that is, go way out of your way. I know he said it's sold out, and it is, but it's worth back ordering. It's worth getting it in audio. It's worth getting it electronically. Whatever you got to do to get
Paperback
the book, The
too.
Goose, paperback, get it, because Fred is so generous. He's so, the big word in law is eleemosynary. He has such a heart that he wants everyone's soul to catch the contagion and the fire of being a self-determinant activator. So Fred, thank you, our beloved friend, being on
Thank
this
you,
show with us.
Fred.
And we look forward to the next couple books.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Have a good
Good
everybody.
day, everybody.